All right, June is Alzheimer's and Brain Wellness Awareness Month. Recent studies show seniors who had COVID had a substantially higher risk of being diagnosed with Alzheimer's within the year. Doctors say Alzheimer's begins developing in the brain about 20 years before symptoms begin, so a COVID-19 infection doesn't cause Alzheimer's. Rather, it sometimes causes inflammation that may exacerbate changes already happening in the brain. So joining me here on the 9 this morning for more insight is Dr. James Mittelberger from the Center for Elders Independence. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we're talking about this just a moment ago. There are multiple types of dementia, and I think a lot of people are starting to understand this because of what happened to Bruce Willis. He has what's called frontotemporal dementia. What is specifically about that and the differences with other types of dementia?
There are multiple types of dementia, and each of them has a different presentation, the way they first appear, and a way they progress. Alzheimer's disease is just one form of dementia. It's the most common. Bruce Willis had frontotemporal dementia, which is a rare form of dementia, but it causes different kinds of symptoms.
Gotcha. But it's the same overall effect.
Same overall, right. Well, different effects. It's actually pretty important now as we're learning more and more to actually get to a doctor early if you're seeing changes, because we're learning more and more that we can slow them and they have different progression. So it's important to know which kind of dementia you have.
And I want to get to what your organization does, the Center for Elders Independence, in a moment. But first, on Friday, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, they found that a drug called lecanemab showed benefits of slowing cognitive decline. What can you tell us about that? Is it something you're following?
Well, we're learning that, Alzheimer's disease is an inflammatory disease, which which starts early and is associated with accumulation of this substance in your brain called beta amyloid. So one of the ways we can help slow the disease is to develop antibodies that actually clear out the amyloid. And we are just seeing now the most recent antibody looks like it's working. It's called lecanemab. It has side effects. It's somewhat dangerous. But it's the beginning, I think, of more and more effective treatments.
Of understanding, getting to that point. I mean, you have to go through some of these hard points to get to the point where we find the right cure for people. Right.
Of course, from my perspective, it's great that we're doing this, but let's focus on the proven ways we have to prevent the disease from starting in the first place before we get to the treatment.
So let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, is Alzheimer's preventable at all? I mean, or is it something that you can't? I've always heard that it's something that's going to happen.
So Alzheimer's has different causes. You cannot assume in any one person, just like with heart disease, that that they did something wrong. It has genetic determinants too, but it is definitely preventable. It can be prevented from occurring, and it can be slowed, and you can make it happen later with diet, exercise, blood pressure control, and staying engaged. All of these things are now proven to slow the onset of Alzheimer's disease.
So the Center for Elders Independence, talk to us a little bit about that, because you focus on some of the things that you need to do in your body to stave off Alzheimer's.
Right. Well, I love the Center for Elders Independence is where the future of healthcare is going. We take people who are frail and vulnerable, and we keep them engaged with one another. We keep them in our centers. We drive them to their appointments. We drive them to get together with music, nutrition. So rather than putting people in separate nursing homes, we keep them in their homes.
In their homes?
In their homes.
Okay, and so one of the things you said here, to slow the onset of Alzheimer's, social engagement. So if you keep them in the homes, how do you do that part of things?
Well, social engagement, talking to people, caring about things, having somebody that cares whether you get up in the morning and what you're doing, that is so important to health, to brain health. It determines how long you're going to live. Loneliness will double your death rate. So what we do is we take people and we find ways to connect them with one another. And we bring them into our centers.
And exercise and controlling blood pressure are also two things that you have to look at in order to stave this off.
Yes, sir.
And the more you do these things, the better you are staving off any kind of dementia.
Yes, use it or lose it. Stay engaged, caring and connecting. Eating a really good diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, all of those are shown to reduce the rate of Alzheimer's disease. And for people who need it, creating a system so that people can be at home and be with one another makes a big difference.
It's could start with social engagement. Make sure your elderly family members are engaged and exercising and keeping themselves in good health. That's one thing.
And so at the Center for Elders Independence, people can work during the day. We can take care of maybe their parents or their loved ones. Then they can be at home in the evenings.
Yeah, very important stuff here, especially as your loved ones, grandmothers, parents start to age. Something to think about.
We will create a new future.
Yeah. All right. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Very, very important stuff, especially if you've seen a family member go through this.
Thanks very much.